Hi there, this is Ranjit and I have this Honor 9 Lite and I have used this device for more than a week or so. And in my unboxing video, many of you have asked me to explain the camera modes and how it works because this is the only smartphone in this price range. This is priced at 11,000 that comes with 4 camera setups. It has a dual rear facing camera and a dual front facing camera, and it offers portrait mode from both the front facing camera and the rear facing camera. But it also has some other modes like a wide aperture mode, and we also have a bokeh mode in the portrait mode, so it can get a little bit confusing. So I was out last weekend and I shot a lot of pictures with this one with all the different modes, and I found some very interesting results. So let's check that out and see how it works. So guys, recording this sample with the Honor 9 Lite's front facing camera, and I'm going to show you a lot of sample shots with the same. And I figured out that it has actually two modes. One is that portrait mode and also is the wide aperture mode. But surprisingly, in many situations, the wide aperture mode is doing a far better job than the portrait mode, because the portrait mode sometimes is making the background blur look very artificial. But with the wide aperture mode, I found that you can get some very good shots. Again, there are a couple of settings that you have to note. So I've taken a lot of sample shots. I was here, this is Botanical Garden, so I've taken quite a few shots. Amit was also there, so we took a couple of selfies also. I'll show you all the samples, so stay tuned. So guys, this is the Honor 9 Lite with me, and let's look at the camera interface. And this is the front facing camera. Let's move back to the rear facing camera. And this is the interface that you would see. Again, this is similar to even other Honor phones like the 7X, etc. I won't be going into other manual modes and stuff. If you slide here, you have manual modes and all these things, but I'm just going to concentrate on the default auto mode. And here also you'll see that on the left you have a couple of modes over here. This is the live photo. This takes a sort of a picture and a video, pretty simple. But this is the wide aperture mode, and this is the portrait mode. As you can see, it says portrait mode enabled, so you can take portrait shots with this. But here, if you click this, then you enable the bokeh mode. By default, it's just in the portrait mode, and we also have a beauty level with this, so you can adjust this as per your liking. 0 is it's not applied, and the higher you go, it smoothens your face. So you have these options, so you have to be careful in using this if you enable the portrait mode. And if you want that background blur thing, you have to actually use this bokeh mode enabled. But I would say you have to be careful with this one, because I'll show you some sample shots later on. I've taken tons and tons of sample shots, and I'll show you all that. But in some situations, using that portrait mode is not a good idea. So that's the portrait mode. But we also have, let's just disable that portrait mode. We also have this wide aperture mode, and this is actually pretty interesting. And as you can see, you have a slider over here. You can adjust the aperture level. It can go up to about f11 and 13. That means everything will be sharp. And the lower you go, that gives you that background blur and everything. I noticed that don't go bonkers with this if you are using this aperture mode on human subjects. Don't go below 2.8, I would say. You can go up to 2.4 if you're careful. But below that, if you go, then it is very difficult to get the shot. With static subjects like this, let's say, then you can go it a little bit lower, even with this aperture mode. But with human subject, it's not a good idea to go very low. I would say 2.4 to 2.8 is a good option. And I feel for aperture, this aperture mode works actually pretty well, even compared to the portrait mode. Let me actually show you. I was out, as I mentioned, took some sample shots. This is the regular shot. This is in the aperture mode, as you can see, and you get that background blur here. But as it's in the aperture mode, I can click this, and even after taking the photograph, let's say I want to keep my wife's face mostly into focus, I can just tap that and move around. You have to be careful, otherwise yeah, as you can see. And now I can adjust the background blur. The background blur is just too much, I would say. It's looking unnatural. So I can adjust the aperture and adjust the settings. As you can see, I can make it sharper or So you have this additional functionality even after taking the photograph in this aperture mode. But again, be a little bit careful with this one. Don't go bonkers with this. As you can see, now I've made even the background a little bit more sharper. So I felt that this was like actually much better than taking photographs in the portrait mode, because later on I could actually edit the shots and get what I would like. And if you just click this, and you can save it as a new image. As you can see, this is the new one that we adjusted the background blur. And where was the original one? The original one had a lot more background blur. Where was it? Yeah, this one. As you can see the difference. Let me actually show you the sample shots that would make a better understanding. First, I took some landscape shots without any mode, and in terms of sharpness and color reproduction, as you can see, it does a very good job. Here I took a picture of my wife in the regular mode, but here I enabled the portrait mode. Though we got that background blur, I felt that the background blur was excessively done in this portrait mode. Here I took this shot in the normal mode, and this was taken in the portrait mode, and notice the background blur, it looks very unnatural. So I decided to test a little bit. This was taken in the regular mode. As you can see, the background is very sharp, picture looks good, but here again I enabled the portrait mode and it's a complete mess. As you can see, the background is completely blurred. But I took this one in the wide aperture mode, I think so at f2.8, but later on, as it was in the aperture mode, I could edit it, and I pushed up the f-stop to about 6.5, and as you can see, this picture looks a lot better. Tried it once more. This was without any modes. As you can see, the background is also very sharp. This was taken in the wide aperture mode, but as you saw in the earlier part of the video, we edited it and now we could get a better shot. Amit was also there, so I tried it on him. This is in the portrait mode. Again, the background is just too much blurred, but this was in the wide aperture mode. So later on, I could adjust the background blur, and I think this looks a lot better. You can also use the wide aperture mode on non-human subjects. As you can see, this was at f2.8 if I recall, but later on I could just, because it was in the wide aperture mode, adjust the background blur, and I feel this one looks a lot better. Now for some selfies, and this is in normal mode. As you can see, the picture looks good, but as this one also has the portrait mode even for the front facing camera, this was actually taken in the portrait mode. This selfie was taken in the normal mode, and as you can see, the selfie came out very good, but again it also has that portrait mode. So I enabled the portrait mode, but notice Amit's face, it got slightly blurred. But again, even in this portrait mode, you can actually adjust the background blur later on if you want. So guys, what do I think regarding its camera performance? As you've seen with the sample shots, and this is based on the pricing of this device. This is available in India for 11,000 rupees. And for that price point, I would say the camera performance is actually really good. The front facing camera has the dual camera setup, and it actually works very well. As you can see, this part of the video is also being recorded via its front facing camera, and this is in my office in artificial lighting conditions. So the front facing camera performance is very good, and it also has that portrait mode that works. If you're just a single person, it works, and you can also adjust the background blur later on if you want. Yes, with the rear facing camera, if you just use the default portrait mode, the background blur is just too much and looks a little bit artificial. I hope Honor can fix it with a software update. But we have that wide aperture mode, and I feel that's a very nice mode that this phone has. And even after taking a picture later on, if you feel that the background blur is just too much, you can edit it and save it as a new image, and that works as you have seen with the sample shots. So considering the price point of this device at 11,000, if you are a person who takes a lot of pictures, I feel as of now it's a very good option. I'll also be posting the full in-depth review for this Honor 9 Lite very soon, so stay tuned to my channel, and if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. This is Ranjit, and I hope to see you in my next video.